chase Leaki with the blue futon out of the digital world. I'm finally finishing Gangs of Woospar Part 2. Is it better than Part 1? Let's figure this sucker out. So Gangs of Woospar Part 2, what's it about? It's a very simple premise, actually. If you've seen Part 1, this is basically right after the ending of Part 1, and you're getting more into the gangs, into the backstabbing, into the family aspect of it. And if you ever watched the first one where I said, I wonder if his hair is ever going to grow back, nope, you're going to figure that out in the first 2 minutes that he will not. Part 2 more focuses on that beginning shootout from Part 1, as well as the sons in this one. And did I enjoy this one more than the first one? Absolutely. I think Part 2 looked better. It felt like it was a better script. It just felt like a different movie, in my opinion, where the characters were more fleshed out, and I enjoyed what was on screen more than Part 1. I know Part 1, they're trying to focus on the father character with that one, but I feel like focusing on the father character with that one and doing just a little bit of stuff to try to build his empire, I mean, it was a smart move, but continuing on with what these sons are going to do and like what backstabbing is going to happen with all these different gangs, to me was just a more cohesive and better story to say. So with that, I'll give the negatives of the movie first. The consistency of this movie is a little bit off here and there. For example, in this movie with the guns, in some scenarios, you see shell casings come out of the weapons, while other weapons you do not. So there are some inconsistencies there, as well as the final, killing scene on a toilet. Bullet holes were just astronomical. Like, you would see a scene where he's like, do, 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 and then they'll show it afterwards, and there's no bullet holes there. Like, there would literally be a hole in his body, and they don't show it. And that might just be for the gore reason in this type of movie. But like I said, those small inconsistencies of the weapons as well as the actual bullet holes kind of was like, okay, I kind of want to, if you're going to keep going back and forth, I want to see that. Because there's a strong scene where someone was getting shot and he picked up this shell casing. But then other scenarios, like I said, you just don't see the shell casings come out of AK-47s, of these automatic weapons, which they would be flying out continuously with how many bullets are being sprayed. Then other than those consistencies, I thought this, like I said, I enjoyed this one a lot better than Part 1. I enjoyed the acting more. I enjoyed the story more. Just because I just didn't like the father character of the womanizer part. I understand why he did that, because you needed one of these stepchildren to come in to Part 2 and try to change up the cogs in the machine. But just his womanizing role and some of his acting, everything happening with that, I just wasn't connecting. With this one, I was connecting with what these sons were going to, because in the first 15 minutes, the story completely changes in Part 2. We're like, oh, I thought I was going to follow this character and this character, but we are completely going in different directions. And I think that was a smart movie-making decision of what this character they decide to choose. So like I said, I like the cinematography here. The movie just looked a little bit brighter than Part 1. I don't know if it was a couple weeks apart, but just Part 2 felt brighter. It just felt more original, and it felt more different. You could compare this to Godfather Part 1 and Part 2, how Part 2 is just a better movie, and this is the same thing with Gangs of Woospar. Cinematography was still great. The acting was still great. The scenarios that people were in felt realistic to a point, with some of the backstabbing and everything like that. I do feel like at the very end, I was a little bit, you could say, confused with how it did conclude. I think it is concluding to kind of stop with the gangs, but I could be completely wrong, because the whole point of the movie was knowing this main guy, you could call it the Godfather character, and his son, that relationship, as well as his stepson and that relationship, even though the stepson didn't have a father at that point. But I understand the whole dynamic of, are we just done with this shit? But I could be completely wrong, but that's what I got at the very end. I do have a question, though, with the jail sentence. You can get 2 years for saying cocksucker or saying that shit on the phone to the police. That gets you 2 years in jail. Because if I'm not mistaken, it went from 2002 to 2004 when one of the characters was in jail. So I was like, damn, that's pretty messed up if he's in jail for that long. And also, one of the character choices for not for black money. That's what I'm going to say with this one, because there is a character arc in this story kind of at the last 40 minutes about jail, black money, and him kind of not having his right mind in the game, because he was more focused on the black money as well as, kind of building up his empire with money. that character decision kind of didn't match what he's been going through the whole rest of the 2 hour and 40-minute movie. So that last 40 minutes of what he was trying to do, I was like, I don't know if I believe that's where his mind would go, because he was told by one of his henchmen of like, yo, this guy, he's actually a rat, but he doesn't care that he's a rat. To me, that just didn't like mesh well with knowing what this character has been going through and how smart he is. Just that weird angle. I was like, I don't know if I believe that as a whole. But overall, Kings of Woostar Part 2 is a better movie than the first one. Good acting, good directing, good scenarios, good bloodshed, good violence, and I enjoyed what was on the screen. And like I said, to me, this story was a lot more cohesive, and I understand the plot through and through. But like I said, some of the weaknesses is some of the character decisions, and like that doesn't really match what they were, have been doing the whole time, as well as just small inconsistencies with bullet holes, as well as shell casings. So Gangs of Woostar Part 2 will receive a 4.5 out of 5 with Futons equals at 90%. So combining Part 1 and Part 2, it's an 80% movie. So see the Critic News scores gave this one. So we're still at a 97% and a 90. Critic consensus, more than 5 hours goes by in a blink in this frantic Indian crime epic that spans generations and encompasses hundreds of characters in a bloody spiral of brutality, all mastered filmed by, I'm not going to act like I had to say his name. So like I said, overall, I do think Part 2 is a better movie. Right when the gas station shooting happens it's an uphill. It goes straight uphill, in my opinion. So 97, 90, or 80. Well, yeah, we'll go. I mean, you go 90, my 90, or my 80. So we have like 4 scores. Chase out with the Blue Futon, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think is Bluetoniatopia. You Blue Futonians, thanks for watching. Have a great day. So like I said, my goal now is to do like a out of the box digital Indian movie. Out of the box digital Indian movie, because, and then some Netflix TV shows here and there like Korean stuff. But yeah, time of the day, it's hard.